Hey, how's it going? My name is Grant Chasson, and in this video, I want to teach you how to become dangerously confident. So, my background, I'm a performance coach for athletes, and I help them build confidence, resilience, and a mental foundation to help them get from where they are to where they want to be. So, this is all a direct post from my Substack, my free newsletter, and you can find it in the link in the description. So there's a sprinter that I worked with named Chris. He's incredible, great friend of mine. And he had an issue where his past with his injuries and his fear of re-injuring previous injuries caused him to tense up a little bit. And that created a problem because it would cause tension and then it would most likely re-aggravate the former injury. So Chris had an issue and I knew that he was a Division I sprinter, a great opportunity to try out some of the things that I had been learning through my certification with Brian Kane, Ben Newman, and getting a master's in sports psychology, being a former Division I quarterback. I said, look, Chris, let me see if I can help you out here. So we tried something that I had never done before. I had never heard about before until I was trained in it. And I realized that there's actually a pretty simple solution to A, building confidence, and B, relieving some of that performance anxiety before it even happens. So the issue usually becomes mistake, spiral into that's a bad rep, turns into a bad game. Keep thinking about it, what's in the back of your head, and all of a sudden it's a bad season, you're in a slump, you're questioning everything. It happens, right? That's the tried and true wheel of what continues to happen to athletes. So what do you think the solution is? Usually athletes start grinding harder, putting more physical tension or toll on their body. And that's not what you want in this situation. In fact, you should actually do less. Now, what do I mean by doing less? I mean, yes, physically, you need to have 1 to 2 rest days per week, especially if you're a collegiate athlete, because the time that you're at the facility working out, putting in the time, going to practice, you're going to have recovery. So how do you convince yourself and convince your mind to be confident without putting in extra physical work and just grinding all the time? Well, you build self-belief. Okay. Easy said, right? But when we think about self-belief, we have to have some sort of proof or evidence to back that self-belief up. So let's debunk a myth right away. Confidence only shows up after results. Not true. Okay. When I work with collegiate athletes or people who are very successful, even when I was coaching quarterbacks for 8 years as an offensive coordinator in high school program, if a quarterback was in a slump or if they had missed a few weeks with injury and the pressure was on, I made sure that they had some kind of evidence bank to make them know that they have been successful and there's absolutely no reason that they cannot continue to be successful. So the big picture is your body, your mind goes into defense mode after a mistake, after a slump, after a bad game, whatever you want to call it. Coach tells you one little comment and all of a sudden everything spirals. You start thinking about scholarships lost and money and all the things. So the big picture look is that this is the nervous system taking over, right? Fight or flight is your own mechanism for protecting you from harm. When your great ancestors were hunters and were looking for food, okay, if there was a saber-toothed tiger lurking in the woods or the jungle, guess what? The hair on the back of their neck stood up. They had goosebumps, their stomach turned, their pupils dilated. It prepared them to either run or fight the saber-toothed tiger. So same thing now. When you make a mistake, something's threatened, right? You're threatened by lack of performance, letting down loved ones, turning this into a slump. And you can't afford that. If you're a senior, junior, you're looking for the NIL deals, you're looking for a professional contract, it happens. So how do we build the confidence and self-belief and flip the script on that fight or flight system to get us back into rest and digest? Number one, you're going to have to rewire your brain. And at any given moment, hear me out, the human brain has 86 billion neurons that are forming over 100 trillion connections. Every thought, emotion lights up those pathways. So the second that you start thinking about failure and a mistake and a rut, being in a slump, all of a sudden you've already wired that to a threat. So what does that happen? Or what happens after it becomes a threat? Now your body tenses up, heart racing, pupils dilated, digestive system contracts, sweaty hands, everything. You're in fight or flight. But here's the best part. With all those connections, trillions of neural pathways, your brain still doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's happening in your head. So picture this. When an athlete vividly imagines a threatening scenario or a situation that can bring them stress, the brain thinks you're in it, right? A lot of times we just tell ourselves to snap out of it, stop thinking about those negative situations. But that's not how it's supposed to work. We can use that to our advantage to prepare ourselves for those high pressure moments, high pressure situations. So here's where the tool that you need right now comes into play: visualization. Now, every time I talk to somebody about visualization or just in general mental imagery, they're thinking, oh yeah, I visualize success, or I go through all the plays in my head, or quarterback, I'll go through all the plays in my head before practice or a game and go from there. Yeah, that works. But I'm talking about rewiring those trillions of neural pathways and connections to help you convince yourself and your mind that you're good, right? Is that not confidence? So what do we do here? So this is where I worked with Chris. And I said, Chris, just hear me out on this. I've got a new process called visualization, mental imagery, and it's not something you've ever done before, but we're going to try it and see how it works. So keep in mind, Chris was the first athlete I've used mental imagery and visualization with. Pretty simply, you relax the body, breathe, total relaxation. Okay. You tell yourself different affirmations, right? You repeat them back to yourself with full belief in the affirmation statements. You look back on the past that you've had success in. So we imagined Chris crossing the finish line, full health, first place every time. And then we use that confidence, tied that emotion into the next performance. Now, it's not as simple as that. You have to have vivid details and vivid recall of those moments. What was the weather like? What were you smelling? What were you seeing? What were you hearing? What did you eat that day? Every single thing you can imagine to help your highlight reel built into that confidence bank. You bring it with you towards the next competition. Okay. Two of my favorite athletes of all time, Michael Phelps, constantly talked about visualization. He would imagine the race going so perfectly. Then he would imagine the race not going so well, and he had to pick up the slack. And how would he adjust? Drew Brees, he saw every single movement of every single player on the offense and defense before it ever happened, over and over and over again. Okay. When he would warm up, he would always go through the first throw, and then he would go through the rest of the progressions of whatever throw and progress or pass concept that he was working for that rep every single time. It was always in his head. He always got the extra reps in. Even my guy, Pat Mahomes, says, if you start repping this mentally, the first time it happens, it's nothing new. The 2-minute situation to go to the Super Bowl, it's nothing new. He's rehearsed it. He saw it. He was mindful about it, and he was ready. So what was the result of working with Chris and doing the visualization? Plain and simple. He calmed down. He exited fight or flight and went into rest and digest. So what does that mean for performance? When he got to the blocks at the start line, he was relaxed. He was, energetic, a little jittery just before a race. I mean, racing is incredibly nerve-wracking, but he just told himself, I've trained. I'm going to run my race. Whatever happens, happens. So what do you think happened next? Personal records, school records. Okay, he was on the 4x1 team. They dominated at the Sun Belt Conference, right? And at that point, he just became addicted to it. He'd say, Coach, once a week, we got to get on this mental rehearsal. So I would basically pre-record the script for him, and he would listen to them on the bus. He'd listen to it the night before, and he would just slowly develop that confidence and belief in himself that, okay, I've done this before. I know what the success feels like. I can do this. Okay, so a couple things you need to think about with mental imagery and visualization and why you think it might not work. Physical practice is more important than sitting around thinking. Well, of course, nobody's going to argue against that. But if you're constantly overthinking and you're in a place that you find yourself just tense and stuck because you say, I just don't have the confidence I used to have, this is for you. This is not for somebody who can just go out there and physically dominate and, be perfectly fine. This is for the person that really wants to be successful and that wants to step up their game and level up And using this tool will do that. Look, when I was a college quarterback, I knew every single play inside and out. I knew the coverage, I knew the read, I knew where to go with it. I mean, I was like a coach on the field to a certain extent. But the second I got out there and I made one bad throw, I started questioning my throwing motion. I started wondering, what is coach saying about me? What are my teammates saying about me? When can I fix this? Why can't I fix this throwing motion? I'm never going to be a good quarterback. I'm never going to get this done. Like, why can't I do this? I did this all the time. What's changed? Why is it changing? And then the thoughts just spiral. It happens. So what I wish I would have done was just reset, take a deep breath and say, look, you can't fix your throwing motion right now, but you can definitely put in 25 to 45 minutes of work every morning before you go to class to get the throwing motion fixed. And from there, you can build the confidence. From there, you're going to recall all the great throws you've had in the past and believe that you can throw and that you can throw well. But I didn't have myself to coach me back then. Okay, another objection is, well, what about that negative thinking or that thing in psychology where if you tell them, don't miss a free throw, all they register is that miss free throw. And then all of a sudden it's bad. And yeah, that's called ironic process theory. It happens all the time. And I completely agree. You don't want to do it that way. You shouldn't have outcome goals oriented into your visualization and memory. It should be, I am a confident athlete. I play to the best of my ability. I have the energy and attitude to dominate no matter the situation. That's it. There's no negative. There's no avoiding a situation like, okay, don't throw an interception. That's not it. Play with confidence, trust your game, be resilient, move on after mistakes. That's what we're looking for here. Okay, I'm going to add this to it. This isn't just for athletes, right? I am a coach. I'm a business owner, father, investor, trader, all the things. And there's a lot that goes into that in terms of creating content, writing, developing my craft as a coach and parenting and being a husband and doing all these things and just managing life. So for me, I had to sit down and say, all right, what can I use with mental imagery and visualization for me to help me get that extra boost of energy in the morning to become the person I want to be? And so I came across this book, Visualize. I'll link that in the description. And basically, there's all sorts of outcomes and specific reasons that you could use visualization. For me personally, I tested this out. And for 7 days, I woke up and the first thing I did in the morning was to go outside, get some sunlight, breathe in the fresh air. And I had to actually emotionally attach myself to where I would be or what my life would look like in 5-10 years if I accomplished the goals that I wanted to. And then once I felt that emotion and once I felt that sense of, I guess pride and just dopamine of you've accomplished something, you've made it to the next tier, the process worked, I backtrack and say, okay, what is the first step I need to take today to move closer to that goal? And you better believe I was right back in the office ready to go. And I was doing every little thing I could imagine that would put me one step closer to becoming that person. So if you need confidence, do it how you want. Use it for what you need to. But plain and simple, here's a 30-day process to build dangerous confidence right now. Okay. Number one, find your film. Think about success you've had in the past, what you've done well, moments that really hit in terms of like being in a flow state, anything that could be part of your highlight reel from the past. Step two, build out your script. Okay. Make sure you know what needs to be done to the script. I've made this really simple for you. I've actually created a few scripts to help athletes get out of the slump. I'll put a link in the description. It's super simple. You just download it. It's 3 audio files built into a PDF that kind of lays out the script. And you can see the process that went into building that script. So you can literally take that script, take that PDF, put it into your AI of choice and say, hey, I want to use this framework for the script, but my goal is to get over my fear of public speaking or getting on different social platforms to post for my business. Whatever it might be, build your script how you want. But I'll put a link in the description for anyone who wants to download the ones I've already pre-recorded. And you get to listen to my voice. Okay. So step 3, run this daily for 30 days. Before practice, before work, before a meeting, before bed. Please don't close your eyes while you're driving. But seeing what's going to happen before it happens and then living it with the emotions, it's super, super powerful, right? So if you do this every single day, I promise you, there's just no way around it. For 30 days, you will be a much more confident person or athlete, no matter what you're trying to do. Now, one critical aspect that I don't want to leave out is you have to add adversity to your mental imagery and script. You have to see yourself failing to a certain extent, missing a throw, striking out, throwing an interception, missing the game winning shot. You have to see that over and over again to remind yourself that you're still you and that you're going to bounce back quicker. You're going to see yourself show up to work the next day. It's just part of the process and motivation, right? When I coach golfers, I tell them, look, I don't care how you perform, in a tournament versus by yourself, going on the back nine. I want you to use those high pressure scenarios like, hey, $250,000 on the line. Everybody's watching you. Everything depends on you. How are you going to do on this 7-foot putt? That's the adversity you need to add to it. And then you practice. What's my reset? Is it a deep breath? What do I do? Recall that cue word, what you've done in the past. You've been confident before. But my point is you've already rehearsed it. So now when it happens, whatever happens, happens. So I hope you found some value from this. Again, please download those scripts. I wrote those scripts as if I was talking to my 19-year-old self spiraling out of control as a Division I quarterback, plain and simple. So you can use them. It's a PDF with them embedded inside. You can take the PDF, again, stick it into AI, make new scripts if you want, but the audio's there. Try it out. If you like it, let me know. And the link will be in the description to download that. So thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.